As a clinical psychologist with years of experience of trying to help people feel happier in their lives, I've realized this one truth. This is the secret to being happy. You have to close the gap between your desires and your reality. I think happiness is about closing the gap between what you want and what you have. It's about making your reality a bit more like your desires, or bringing your desires closer to your reality. So I'm going to speak about how you can do that. But I want you to first understand this concept, because it's, I think, impossible to be unhappy while your reality matches your desires. And I think similarly, it's impossible to be happy when your reality does not match your desires. So I think happiness is that space between your desires and your reality, the space between what you want and what you have. When we close that gap, you become happier. When that gap broadens, you become less happy. I think it's as simple as that. So let's just understand the concepts first. What I mean by desire is what would satisfy you. So we all, as human beings, have certain desires that come and go. Some desires stay longer, others are a bit more ephemeral, so they pop up and then they leave and they're only there for that specific time. And that's what a desire is. It's what would satisfy you in life, what would bring you happiness, what would make you feel whole and complete. Those desires are something that you need to work out for yourself. So part of getting happier is mapping out your desires. Do you have awareness of what would really satisfy you? Do you have awareness of what already has satisfied you in the past? And it has to be accurate, because we can be mistaken about our desires. A lot of people pursue success as some idea of success that they've been given by the society or the people around them, and then they don't necessarily become happier because of it, because they were mistaken about what the desire is. So the first step in understanding this model and becoming happier is mapping out your desires, is making all those vague little wants, needs, and desires a bit more concrete, a bit more tangible, getting them down on paper. So that's desires. Then we have to look at reality. Reality, what I mean by that, is just your current internal and external context. It's about what is at the moment. What is going on in your relationships, in your career, with your finances? What kind of environment do you live in? What's the location? What do you spend your time on? What do you do on a daily basis? What are your daily activities? That is what your reality is. So it's also, it's not just external, right? I mentioned a lot of external stuff. It's also internal. It's about the current state of your emotions. What are you paying attention to? What is your mind focused on? What are your underlying beliefs? What are your thought processes? What are your bodily feelings and sensations on a daily basis? Are you in physical pain or not? That's also part of your reality, even though it's internal. The internal stuff only you have access to. Other people can't necessarily see that. But it's both external and internal. That's what your reality is. Now, we have desires about what we want that internal and external context to look like. And as soon as we have desires, and those desires don't map on to what the internal or external context looks like, that's when we start to feel dissatisfied with our lives. That's when our well-being lowers. That's when we feel less happy because of that gap. Now, I'd like you to think about a time when you were happy. Think about a time when you felt complete and satisfied. Chances are, in that moment, you felt like you were really satisfied with whatever your current reality was. You felt whole in that moment. You felt like, this is good. This is what I want. What I want and what I have matches. That gap is closed. That's what you probably felt like in that moment. Now, the same is true for your unhappiness. Think about a time when you weren't happy, when things weren't going well, when you didn't feel good. Chances are, in that moment, your reality did not match your desires. You had some idea of what you wanted things to look like, but that's not what was happening in that moment. So that is the difference between being happy and being unhappy. It's that gap between desire and reality. Most people don't realize that to close this gap, they can move from either end. A lot of people don't realize that to close the gap and to get yourself a bit happier, to push your desires a bit closer to your reality and vice versa, you can move from either end. And this is where the practical stuff starts to come into play. And this is where my expertise as clinical psychologist can be really helpful. So I want you to think about times when you became happy because you shifted your desire. Your reality sort of stayed the same, but you changed your desires or what you wanted, what brought you joy. Think about a time in your life where that's happened. And I'll give you an example just to help you out a bit. In my own life, there have been times where I've had to do a job, where I've had to work in a location that I didn't necessarily want to work in. So the reality was that I had to work there. The desire was to work elsewhere. And in that moment, I knew the reality was fixed. The reality was fixed. So to close the gap, I had to shift my desire. I had to change how I'm viewing the situation. So when I was working at a hospital that I didn't want to work in, I started to focus on the meaning that it brought to me. Even though I didn't ideally want to be there, I started to focus on the meaning of being able to help people in that moment. I started to shift my perspective around gratitude as well, starting to think, actually, how lucky am I to have employment? Especially being a South African, a lot of our country, I don't think it's most, but it's very close to half of our population is unemployed. So that is extremely unsettling. So for me to even have employment, what a gift. So in that moment, I couldn't change the reality of the work that I had to do, but I started to change my desire, the way that I was viewing the situation, my level of desire to actually engage in that work. And by doing that, I shifted the desire. I closed it a bit. I closed the gap a bit, and it helped because I started to feel a bit happier on a daily basis because I was focusing on the meaning and purpose that the work brought to me. I was focusing on how grateful I should actually be to have employment and to be able to help people and to be safe and protected. I did that in a lot of ways, and it genuinely helped me. But in that example, you see, the reality was fixed and the desire moved. The desire moved, the gap closed, and I got happier. But the reverse is also true. And a lot of people don't realize this. They think they have to choose one or the other. But you can also become happier by closing the gap the other way, where the desire is fixed. You stick with what you want. You don't falter on that. You say, this is what I want. You fix it. It's fixed. And then you change your reality to get closer to that. I'll give you another example in my life. When I was studying, I actually studied engineering first. I studied mechanical engineering. And then midway through my degree, I realized that this wasn't for me. I wanted to work with people. I wanted to help people. I wanted to find more meaning in my work. And I wanted to be in a field that's a bit less set in stone. A lot of mechanical engineering, a lot of the stuff is already sorted out in that scientific arena. Whereas with psychology, it's a bit more open-ended. There's a bit more room for creativity and to do something that nobody else could do if they were in your position. So I shifted over to psychology. I changed my reality. I was lucky enough that I was supported with this decision. And I wasn't treated like most Indian children who they're a failure if they're not a doctor or an engineer. I was allowed to hop from being an engineer to being a psychologist. And I started to feel a lot happier on a daily basis because my reality was different. The classes were different. I enjoyed the lecturing material. I even enjoyed exams because I'm super passionate about this field. And so I devote a lot of my spare time to this field as well, even when I'm not actually studying and I'm not required to do anything. I just naturally want to engage in it. So there, my desire took precedence over the reality. I could have stuck with the reality of engineering and tried to find satisfaction in it, but I chose instead to close the gap by changing my reality. So I closed that gap and I got a bit happier. I got my desires, I got my reality, closer to my desires. So that is an example of how you can close the gap and become happier, become more satisfied by moving your reality toward your desires. Most people don't realize this. Most people don't realize that you can become happier through acceptance or through control. You can become happier by changing what you want or by getting what you want. That's the difference between the two strategies, but both are possible. Both are definitely possible. And I help people in my clinical practice on a daily basis with that stuff. So practically, let's walk through some ways in which you can close the gap. Let's get a bit practical for a moment, and let me talk you through the ways in which I help people actually close the gap from both ends. So let's start with getting what you want, which is about moving your reality closer to your desire. How do you get what you want? Well, I think some skills that are incredibly useful here is firstly, goal setting. Goal setting is incredibly helpful to help people get what they want because it helps them clarify what they want, and then it helps them formulate what they want in a practical way that allows them to move toward it. Goals allow you to know what you have to do to get closer to your desires. So goal setting is incredibly useful in this arena. So something that you can do is set SMART goals. That's goal setting 101 basically. Is use the framework of SMART, where S stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for attainable, R stands for relevant, and T stands for time bound. So you take a vague desire and you make it very clear using that framework. You make it specific, you make it measurable, you make it attainable, you make it relevant, and you make it time bound. Goal setting done effectively can allow you to move toward your goals. In other words, it can allow you to change your reality so that you become happier. You move your reality closer to that desire. Some other things that are useful here is, for example, willpower, also known as discipline. In psychology, I help people increase their willpower, and that's possible to do. It's possible to get better at doing the things that you don't like so that you can change your reality. It's a skill that you can develop over time. Research in psychology, especially by people like Professor Roy Baumeister and Professor Kelly McGonigal, there are some leading researchers in this area, and what all the leading researchers in willpower all agree on is the fact that you can get better at it. So willpower or discipline is a really useful way to be able to move your reality closer to your desire so that you can close that gap and feel more satisfied in life. So that's also what I help people to do. And just quickly, some tips on that is don't forget the basics, because sleep and diet can play an incredibly powerful role in how disciplined you are. Research shows that people who get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night have a lot more willpower to use the next day. Research also shows that people who eat a diet high in fruits and veggies, and that's low GI, that doesn't spike your blood sugar too much, those people are able to use willpower as well more reliably. So relying on natural whole foods, organic foods, can actually help you be more disciplined. So if you're trying to change your willpower and do the things you have to do to move your reality closer to your desires, then I would suggest that you engage in building willpower. Another way to build willpower is through mindfulness meditation, because research shows that consistent mindfulness meditation actually grows this part of your brain at the front called the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the latest addition to the brain in our evolutionary history, and it's the part of your brain that is actually used to engage in willpower. It's the part of your brain that's used to stop you from doing something that's good in the short term, but bad in the long term. So the prefrontal cortex, when it's working well and when it's well developed, allows you to stop your immediate impulses. It allows you to put the brake pedals on so that you don't do things that are going to be bad for you in the long run. In other words, it's good for willpower. So consistent mindfulness meditation actually grows this area of the brain and thus makes you more effective at using your willpower. So that's another example of how you can change your reality and move your reality closer to your desires so that you can become happier over time. So goal setting, willpower, and you can also learn how to tap into your natural motivation. That's also a way to change your reality, is to build sustainable motivation that doesn't fade over time. And one useful way to do that, practically speaking, and a way I help my clients in therapy, is by helping them identify what they're naturally motivated to do. Because identifying what you're naturally motivated to do allows you to be more motivated over time. This is called intrinsic motivation because that motivation flows out of you. You don't have to use willpower in those situations because you naturally want to engage in these activities. That is a more sustainable form of motivation. So for you, practically speaking, you should engage more in things that you're naturally motivated to do. And then if you have to engage in things you don't want to do, you should think about how to alter those tasks in a way that make them more enjoyable. For example, when I was a bit of a chubbier kid, I didn't naturally feel motivated to exercise or to do physical activity, but I really enjoyed football. And so I started to get a bit more physically fit by playing football with my friends. Even if it was just four of us kicking a ball around, it helped me get more physically active, and it helped me lose some weight as well. So that's a good example of how you can alter a task or something that you don't feel like doing by making it more enjoyable, and thus making it more intrinsically motivating. Because once you do that, once you have that motivation source, you'll be able to better change your reality and bring it closer to your desires, close that gap, and thus feel happier. So that is how you can become happier, by changing your reality. Those are just a few suggestions. Using willpower, becoming more intrinsically motivated, setting goals and pursuing them, all of those things. But on the other end, let's talk a bit about how to become happier, practically speaking, by moving desires. How can you shift desires? Well, let me give you about 3 strategies here as well. One that I routinely use with my clients is mindfulness. And again, I told you mindfulness works with willpower, so you get a 2-for-1 here. But mindfulness allows you to be present. It allows you to be in the moment. It creates a bit of a savoring experience where you better learn how to savor your reality for what it is. Mindfulness is the ability to pay attention to your present moment without judgment. It's not wishing my reality were like this or like that. It's developing the skill to enjoy your reality for what it is. And a lot of people develop this skill through mindfulness meditation, where we start to pay attention to what reality is and learn how to be curious about that reality, how to delve into it, how to savor it. You can practice this in a simple way with your eating. The next time that you eat a meal, look at the meal. If it's a grape, for example, just grab it and look at it, look at the color, look at what that color actually looks like. You can give it a sniff, you can roll it around and listen to the sound it makes. And then you can put it in your mouth without biting it and just feel the texture with your tongue. And then you can bite into it slowly and notice what the juices feel like coming into your mouth. And then when you swallow it, just feel it fully, feel the tingling of your taste buds. That's an example of how you can be super present, super aware. And by being mindful, what you're actually doing is you are shifting your desire closer to your reality. Because the reality there is still the same. You're still eating the same meal. You're just changing your awareness of it. So you're wishing for that meal in a way, by savoring it, by being aware of it. You're moving away from, oh, I wish I didn't have a grape, I wish I had a raisin. I wish I didn't have this, I wish I had that. You're shifting away from that, your perception of your reality. You're changing that and you're moving your desire closer to reality because you're accepting what your reality is. And thus you feel happier through mindfulness meditation. And don't just take my word for it. This is what the research shows undoubtedly. There's even brain scans where they take monks who have meditated for decades, and they put them in a brain scanner, and the areas of their brain that are responsible for positive emotion is literally more functional and larger in their brains, which is objective evidence that they do actually feel happier. We don't need to look at a monk and look at their smile and assume that they're happy. We've put some of them in brain scanners and we know this now. So I think that research is done by, is it Professor Richard? I've forgotten his name at the tip of my tongue. I'll put it in the description. But the point is that mindfulness meditation makes you happier by moving your desires closer to your reality. Some other things you can do is gratitude, which I mentioned earlier, which worked for me and which the psychological research shows is really helpful. And one way to do that is to follow the advice of Professor Martin Seligman. He's someone who studied positive psychology, how to increase the positive aspects in our life. So he's a very reliable source to look at for these techniques in psychology about how to be happier, how to find more meaning and purpose, things like that. So what he recommends in terms of increasing gratitude is to write down 3 things at the end of the day that you're grateful for. Or I think he phrases it as 3 things that went well. And then you write down why you think those things went well during the day. So that nightly reflection, according to him and his studies, is so powerful that it can even help pull people out of a depressive episode. That is how powerful a technique like that can be. So if you're not already depressed, it can really amplify your happiness. And again, there you're not changing your reality, because you're not actually changing any external or internal circumstances. You are literally just changing your perspective on your reality. You're applying more gratitude to it. So you're becoming more grateful, and you're moving those desires a bit closer to your reality, and thus becoming happier. And again, don't just trust me. This is what the research shows. Gratitude can be incredibly powerful for happiness. So those are some techniques that you can use to become happier by shifting your desires a bit closer to reality. And a final thing that you can do is practicing acceptance, especially with people, accepting people around you. Oftentimes, we're very unhappy with the people around us because we wish they were different. We wish we could control or change them. So we wish we could change the reality of our social situation. But in doing that, we don't allow the relationship to be whatever it is. We don't allow the relationship to unfold in the way that it wants to. We don't allow the person to be who they are. And because of that lack of acceptance, we constantly feel frustrated. We're constantly trying to change them. But if you practice acceptance, if you say, you know what, I don't like that this person is this way, but I'm going to accept them for it, and I'm not going to take on the burden to try to change them, to try to control them, that can be incredibly liberating for you. And it can lead to happiness because, again, you're moving your desire closer to reality. You're starting to accept reality as it is. I'll just put a disclaimer here, because sometimes it is better to get out of a toxic relationship or a relationship that's causing you damage over the long term. But this strategy can be used where you have to deal with the person. You don't really have a choice. That's when you move desire to reality. But you could do it from the other way, where you change your social network. You consciously choose who's going to be part of your support network, who you're going to spend more time with, who your social influences are going to be. That's another way that you can change it. And again, remember, you can move from both ends. Now, one thing that I'd like you to know about this way of understanding happiness is that most people online don't consider how to integrate the two together. And I want you to think about this. Just think about if you go onto YouTube and you watch some videos, or you're scrolling through social media, or you're reading books, or you're listening to your favorite personal growth or personal development speaker. Think about the sentiment that they give you. It's usually one of the two. Usually they're either on the acceptance end or they're on the control end. I'll give you some examples. On the control end, on the change your reality end, you get lots of motivational speakers. It's those people who shout really loudly. They're like, come on, man, you gotta change it. If you don't like it, don't settle. They're a bit harder. They're a bit more discipline focused. They say that you need to get your act together. You need to make your bed. You need to do all sorts of things. They focus on changing your reality. You need to set goals. You need to, they're a bit more motivated and driven to change reality. And that's what they portray. You get that. You also get more males sort of portraying that sort of way of being. And they focus on discipline, willpower, goal setting, success, achievement, motivation, productivity, what else? Being a high-performing individual, all those sorts of things. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but that is what they're telling you about happiness. That is what they're telling you about life satisfaction. That's their narrative, is that you need to go down that avenue. But they don't really show you how to provide room for acceptance, for mindfulness, for gratitude, for changing your desires, working with your desires. But that's where the other aspect of the internet comes into play. It's the people who are very much about acceptance. These are the people, they're sometimes a bit more on the spiritual end as well, where they believe in being with the moment, being present, being aware, being conscious, finding peace, finding mental balance, learning how to accept your situation. You get a bit more spiritual gurus. A lot of the times it's more female oriented. A lot of the times it's more psychologists that advocate for this, finding peace and finding stillness and accepting the reality of your situation. That's usually the side of the internet that deals with that. But notice again, oftentimes when that's their narrative, they struggle to tell you how to integrate the other side, how to integrate being a go-getter, being able to be effective and productive in the world. This is not always the case. Some people show you how to integrate both sides, but a lot of the time, if you think about it, these speakers are tugging you in one or the other direction and not giving you a complete framework with how to balance these two. So in the last part of this video, let's speak about how to balance these two aspects together. Because if you have a situation right now in your life where you feel unhappy, you feel dissatisfied, you want something more, you could be thinking to yourself right now, which should I go for, Nevern? Should I work on changing my reality and getting closer to my desires? Or should I focus on changing my desires and getting closer to my reality? Should I control this situation or should I accept it? And I want to say that we don't need to make it a black or white thing. We want to do both at the same time. And this is how I think you do it. I think the secret to integrating these two perspectives is by focusing first on getting good at the things that will lead to satisfaction. So getting good at the things that will lead you to enjoy your life more. And then secondly, in learning how to enjoy the things that give you a good life. Learning how to enjoy the things that will lead to a better life. I think that is how you integrate the two. That's how you create a virtuous cycle of satisfaction. A virtuous cycle of happiness is by learning how to enjoy the things that are good for you and then getting good at the things that lead to enjoyment. So I'll give you an example of how to do this. Let's say you want to lose weight and you want to feel happier in your body. You could go one of two ways there. You could either say, I'm going for the control aspect. I'm going to change the reality. So I'm going to lose the weight and I'm going to push myself through that and use discipline and goal setting and willpower and I'm going to get there. Or you could go the avenue of saying, I'm going to accept myself. I'm going to find acceptance with my body. I'm going to find peace. I'm going to heal the wounds related to why I want to change my weight. You could go for either one of those. But if you were to create a virtuous cycle between those, you could find acceptance for who you are while also finding acceptance for the fact that you want to be healthier. You could learn how to enjoy the process of becoming healthier. You could learn how to enjoy the process of improving. That is a way to do both at the same time. You're both accepting the current situation, you're accepting the needs you have, and then you're going to also accept the process of getting there. You're going to accept it. You're going to learn how to enjoy it. You're not just going to try to drink green smoothies. You're not going to try to green smoothie your way through your weight loss journey and just try to skip to the end and beat yourself up until you're there. You're actually focusing on enjoying the process of becoming a healthy person. That is how you link acceptance to change. And then you want to focus on getting good at changing. You want to get really good at getting good at becoming the kind of person that will feel more enjoyment. Because you might know that if you do lose weight, if you are healthier, if you feel good on a daily basis, you will feel more satisfied. You'll enjoy life more. You will be happier. So in that case, if you are going to use discipline, willpower, and goal setting, you're using it on something that will actually lead to more satisfaction in your life. It will actually lead to enjoyment. You're not spending time on things that won't lead to enjoyment. You're getting good at the processes that will actually lead to enjoyment. So that is how you create a virtuous cycle of happiness and satisfaction in your life. If you enjoyed this video, I'd like you to check out my free masterclass where I describe 5 non-negotiable tools from therapy for personal growth. I'll see you there.